Hello, everyone, and wishing you all a very good evening. I hope you're all doing well and enjoying the festive time of the year. So, welcome to this strategy session on behalf of PrepLadder. Along with me, we have Kaushal sir, Swati ma'am, Pritesh sir, Marwah sir. I'm sure you're all very excited to hear all of them. So, what we have planned for you is what should be your approach in the next 4 months for NEET-PG 2023. What we think you should focus on in these last 4 months is what we are going to be discussing over the next 45 minutes to 50 minutes. So without any ado, let's begin very quickly. For those of you who are starting from scratch, let's just say that you were busy with a lot of other issues in life, and suddenly today you realize that there is a PrepLadder webinar, and I can do start tomorrow. What should I do? So, if you're starting from scratch at this point of time and exam is in March, let's just say, we have approximately 4 months in hand. So, we have November, December, Jan, and Feb completely. So, approximately 120 days in our hand, right? So, with this kind of a timeline, how I would go about if I was starting today or tomorrow, what I would do, first of all, I would not start tomorrow, I would start after Diwali. So let me just take out 2 more days of my life if I've taken so much time already. So I'll just celebrate Diwali and I'll start after that. So what you have to do now is try to squeeze in at least 3 rounds of revision, yeah, in this period. And again, it does not have to be equal amount of time, right? In every cycle of revision, you are basically filtering with every subsequent round, right? So your content reduces, your timeline reduces, and you focus more and more on your high points as we go towards the pointy end of the exam, right? So how I would divide it is 120 days divided into 3 parts, right? So the first round of revision would be the most extensive one. So give it around 75 days, right? So 120, let's just make 75, 35, 10, right? So that is the kind of timeline. So first round of revision, the most detailed one will take 75 days. Second, around a month, wherein again I'm doing just the high yield topics, just the most important topics of all 19 subjects. And final 10 days is just the very, very volatile facts that we want to go over, right? So this is the kind of rough timeline that you need to have. In the first round of revision, again, we are basically going to divide around 5 days for the major subjects like medicine, surgery, PSM, obs-gynae, path, and pharma. So these are the main subjects. These are the core subjects. In these, also make sure that you are doing path, pharma, medicine in subsequent order, because when you do your path and pharma well, that sets you up very well for doing medicine. I'm sure Marwa sir will have more inputs on that. So this is how you'll have to set up your timetable for the shorter subjects, final year shorts. So your radio, derma, psyche, anesthesia, ortho, all of these subjects, you can give 2 to 3 days maximum. And for the intermediate subjects, which is going to be your bulk of first and second prof, try to give them around 3 to 4 days, right? So in this, your main primary aim is to do previous year questions. You have to master previous year questions. You cannot get any of those topics wrong. So it does not have to be that you learn the answer, because they will not ask the same question. They will definitely ask the same topic. So master the previous year topics very well. So do the previous year questions first. Anytime you're starting a subject, say you're starting radiology, start off with the previous year questions. Do those topics first. So when you're revising the notes of radiology, do those topics first, and then if time permits, do the other ones. So time here is the limiting factor. You cannot complete all 19 subjects, because otherwise the first subject you start off with, that will only go on for a long period of time. So you need to have that preset timetable, that this is the day, this is the number of days I have, and you basically triage your content in that order, that you start off with the most important and then you go on along with that uh, you know flow. So previous year topics, notes, and more importantly, rapid revision video is a good tool that you can use at this point. So do the rapid revision video of every subject in the stipulated time. And if you find that there are some topics that you are not understanding, weak topics which have been asked a lot of times, you can go into the main content video and see that video particularly. Otherwise, at this point, rapid revision, I think, should be your go to. So this is what will be my 2 cents on what you should do if you're starting from scratch at this point. Create a timetable, prepare a schedule, and go from that point onwards.
Zainab, I would like to add something on this. Like, I think since you are preparing for PG, you are not like we are saying you are starting from scratch, but no one is starting from scratch. So have first of all confidence in you that you are not starting exactly from scratch. You have gone through all the subjects. You know what are your weaker points. There must be some subjects which you have not touched. You should not go to the exam without touching any subject, because for every subject there are few very simple questions which cannot be missed, and you cannot score like 100% in every subject, but let's say 50%, 60% can be easily scored. You have just gone through that. So if you have not done any subject previously but completed, at least you have to complete that. Definitely you should have a schedule. Rapid revision will help. For short subject, rapid revisions are the beautiful tools, as Zainab told you. uh, but have confidence on you. If you are not starting from scratch, dream with us and your dream will definitely succeed.
Yes. So, Kaushal sir, maybe you can answer this about the number of revisions which are required for the exam.
Thanks a lot, Zainab, for all the beautiful insights. Swati ma'am, yes, I agree to the core. And when it comes to this particular question, like how many revisions we are going to do before the exam, what I believe is your mind is made in such way that once the first time we read anything, it is just going to stay there for a short duration. So space revisions are very important. And for me, at least 2 revisions should be there. Revision means it is, as you break it down, revision, look again. So at least 2 revisions are important. Say, for example, now if we have only 4 months in hand, and I'm planning right from the beginning, like I have a schedule where I have to go through all the subjects, then the last month I'll keep just for the revisions. And in that also, what I do is last month, the 20 days will be for revision 1, and the last 10 days will be for revision 2. And in those 10 days, in fact, you have to go through all the 19 subjects. So you have to plan, like anatomy, maybe half a day, or if it is radiology, dermatology, like you can plan accordingly because it is individual need. So how many revisions? If you ask me, at least 2 revisions, post what you have already read and made notes. Now, space revisions, as you can see, they are very important because they consolidate, like in anatomy I teach, this Pepe circuit is there, and Pepe circuit is basically converting your short-term memory into long-term memory, consolidation of memory. And short-term memories are always there in our hypothalamus, or maybe you can start with the hippocampus itself, but then it has to be spread all over your cerebrum. So, and how do you consolidate? Consolidation means, as we already have, your esteemed faculty has already mentioned, previous year questions are very important. So as you challenge yourself, a passive learning is not going to help us. It should be active learning, and challenging topics should be taken, challenging questions should be taken. And as such, like if you are talking about the rapid revision, of course, it is a beautiful tool, even for a larger subject like anatomy. We go very fast. And of course, for shorter subjects, it is very beautifully planned. Almost all the previous questions, all the topics have been taken care of. So that way, revision as such can be done with the help of those rapid revision videos. Plus, they always try to take into account the mock test. The mock tests are very important. And if you have QBank, like any of the brand you may be using, but QBank itself is also very important. It is kind of consolidating whatever you have learned again and again. So that's what I wanted to speak upon. Dr. Pritesh, if you would like to add some points here.
Hello, dear students. See, basically, you should not have any kind of fear at this point of time. Simultaneously, you should be utilizing your proper time. first thing I want to tell you that whatever the source was there, you are preparing with. Suppose you are using one particular book for anatomy or for surgery, for medicine, you continue that source only. And whatever additional information you are getting, you should write it into that particular source or that particular notes or that particular book. At this point of time, I have seen lots of students, they are looking for one magical books or two magical books. Let me tell you, there is no magical book and there is no single book which is going to solve all the problems of all 19 subjects. So first thing, whatever the notes you are following, whatever the books you are following for subject, follow that particular source only. So single source per subject. That is most important. Second, don't be a notes collector. Means suppose you are reading one particular book or notes and you are having this idea that okay, this particular information is not there and this information is there at some other source. Don't worry, because that particular information or that particular topic might be covered in some other subject, or you might get that particular topic in some other previous year questions, right? So you should not have that kind of fear, otherwise it will create a sense of insecurity. So whatever the source you are having, follow that. Gold standard for revision, let me tell you, it's rapid revision. There is no better source than rapid revision. Third, whenever we are studying subjects, see, I have seen lots of students who are having this kind of thing that, okay, sir, I should finish my short subject first and I will, complete longer subject or bigger subject at the end. Don't have this kind of mistake, or don't do this kind of mistake. What you can do, suppose medicine is there, surgery is there. So at this point of time, you finish one topic of surgery like breast or thyroid, and simultaneously you can read a shorter subject like skin, like anesthesia, psychiatry. So better couple a bigger subject with a smaller subject so that you are going to cover a topic of bigger subject and you are going to finish the smaller subject. Don't leave the major subject for the end, otherwise it will create a sense of burden on you, right? And as Zainab told you, Dr. Kaushal told you, ma'am, Dr. Swati ma'am told you that solving previous year questions is very, very important, because it's the learning is divided into two types. It's active learning as well as passive learning. So whenever you are solving MCQs, it's the application of knowledge. So you should do that on daily basis. And I have seen most of the toppers, they are doing this minimum. Initially, they are solving at least 100 to 150 questions. And later, they are going to solve 200 to 300 questions. So my point is, these 120 days or these 4 months are there. Divide these days into subjects, that 4 days or 5 days I'm giving for medicine, I'm giving for surgery, and 1.5 or 2 days I'm giving for shorter subject. So it should be written, it should be planned. It should not be only in your brains. You should be having the written plan. And daily, whenever you are, making the plan for next day. See, we have two kind of plans. One, I make a weekly plan and I make a daily plan. So suppose I'm going to sleep today, I should be having that proper planning that tomorrow which subjects I'm going to study, how many questions I'm going to solve, which year question I'm going to solve, and which topics I'm going to revise from rapid revision. So this is my viewpoint, and I request Dr. Marwah to add his opinion on this particular topic. Marwah, sir.
Hanji. Thank you, sir. Thank you for the kind opportunity. And good evening to all the esteemed faculty and all those guys in the chat who are having a great time. So hi to almost I can see Ashish, then Ankit, then Rocky Bhai. तो रॉकी भाई आपने पूछा एनीथिंग इज इनफ तो कुछ भी नहीं होता है, मतलब आप हैरिसन पूरी पढ़ लो ना तो फिर भी एग्जामिनर ने वो चैप्टर पूछ लिया जो आपने ठीक से नहीं पढ़ा है, तो फिर क्या कर लोगे? तो इनफ कुछ नहीं होता है, ठीक है। हमारी मेडिकल फील्ड में सब कुछ इतना एग्जॉस्टिव है कि आपने आपने प्रिसाइज इंफॉर्मेशन को सीखना है। तो जैसे आपको बताया गया, रैपिड रिवीजन को आप अच्छे से कर लो। अगर आप मेडिसिन का कॉम्पोनेंट कर रहे हो 30 आवर्स है, तो पहली बार अगर आप 30 आवर्स सुनते हो, फिर उसके बाद में सेकंड वाले को आप फास्ट 1.5 पे सुनते हो, तो आई थिंक अगर 45 आवर्स मुझे दे देते हो मेरे सब्जेक्ट के लिए, तो अगर आपने पहले मेडिसिन नहीं भी पढ़ी है तो आई थिंक यू वुड गेट अ बेसिक इंसाइट इनटू द कॉमन थिंग्स व्हिच आर आस्क्ड। और साथ में आप अगर क्वेश्चंस करोगे तो थोड़ा स्ट्राइक रेट आपका इंप्रूव हो जाता है। So, जैसे the basic message which we guys are trying to give you is that do not leave a subject. So, what of most of the guys who are pinging or messaging are is matlab, what should we do and how much time should we invest for medicine at least. So, for my subject, I think if you give us at least, if you give me, 45 hours of your time, then I think that you will be able to improve your strike rate relatively. Praveen, what I'm saying is, I spoke in Hindi for a couple of people. The bottom line is that if you are going to invest time into preparation right now, you will be able to increase your strike rate. I just gave approximate figures. And uh, Ashish, that's what I'm saying. First read of 10 subjects is not sufficient. You need to go into all the 19 because that's when you get a bird's eye view of all the subjects. You see, you need to be a jack of all trades. Nobody is expecting you to be a specialist, and nobody is expecting you to crack, rare ECGs or multifocal atrial tachycardia. Suppose I'm saying, right? You're not able to identify MAT, then even the toppers would be having issues with that. But then routine जो stuff है यार वो suppose is asking atrial fibrillation या फिर routine वो ECG दे दिया ventricular fibrillation का. Like if you're an FMG student listening to this, he's gonna simply ask you कि भाई what is the next step after DC shock has been given to the patient. तो भाई CPR करना ही है. So a lot of things that are asked in the exam are, I think, very simple, common sense. So I personally feel that for average people, though we have very brilliant, super intelligent people with us, but for ordinary people like us, or I'll put it like this: for ordinary people, if I put it on myself, I'll say that I had a focus of like if I used to study for 1 hour, I could only concentrate for half an hour out of it. So my productivity was anyway 50%. So even if I'm studying 12 hours, I could get output of 6 hours only. So I think that वो at least उसको increase करना है. मतलब that is not sufficient for a competition level exam. In a university exam, it's okay. So you need to gradually increase because let's be honest with ourselves. When we study in 1 hour, are we studying with our mind, really or not? Are we applying ourselves fully or not? That really matters. So ultimately, it's all about minutes. It's all about focus. It's all about dedication and how many hours can you crunch every day. Though as this meeting progresses, we will give you more information regarding what is the minimum threshold. I think you would be able to get a basic idea from everybody who's talking here, who has gone through the, who has sailed through those rough waters, who's already walked through that burning, over those burning coals. So you will get an average figure with respect to how many hours of data crunching that you need to do every day. But one thing I mean, if I summarize everything, I can just say that nothing is enough in our field. It's so vast. So try to do the RR component early as you have limited time. And then you have to try and be a jack of all trades rather than being a specialist of anything. Zainab ma'am.
Yes, sir. I think everything has been summarized, and just to further emphasize the importance of previous year questions, I think this has to be your base. You have to base your preparation around this. Any subject that you are starting off, you should start with previous year questions. So what I would recommend is start off with a pre-test, of the subject. Do the previous year questions. Do not go into the solutions. Do not take up too much time doing them. So do the previous year questions of a subject as a pre-test, see how much you know. And in that process, when you're doing the previous year questions, you will get that insight that these are the topics which are coming again and again. What is the trend of the exam, right? So anytime you're starting of a subject, start with previous year questions, go into the notes and rapid revision, and then come back. Come back to the previous year questions as a post test. So once you do the previous year questions again, what would happen is now you are checking, have I read the important topics which have been asked? If not, then you dwell on the solution, read the solution of the questions, which you did not cover in the notes and the videos, and get it over with. So this way, you get a very good closure that you are, thorough. 19 subjects and the most important stuff of 19 subjects is covered. As sir said, it is, you do not have to do 19 subjects in detail. You cannot do that. If you do that, you will end up leaving subjects in the end. So you have to triage and do the most important parts. And what is the most important part, you will get from the previous year question. So start off with them, end with them, just as a closure that I have covered my bases with the most important topics of every subject. Sir, please, Kaushal sir, please, what is your view on this?
Thanks a lot, Dr. Zainab, Dr. Marwah sir. As we are again and again focusing and stressing upon the fact that previous year questions, they basically is the axis. They make the axis around which we will be revolving, because as such, the information which we have, like 5.5 years, we have gathered so much of information, we can get lost into the vastness of that information. So the previous year questions, they keep us on track. Staying on the track is very important. And of course, like when you keep practicing more and more of MCQs, it is kind of a self-assessment. You are going to understand that which are the areas where you are good and which are the areas where you are lacking. You have to put more efforts. And plus, as I say, it is a strategic exam, and the examiner, he has the task of selecting 10% out of whatever the number is. Say out of 100 students, he has to select a 10. So how is he going to do that? He is going to prepare some questions which are strategic questions, and you have to really, it is kind of a game of a chess. So if you want to win in any game, maybe say for example chess, you have to understand the moves of the opponent. And how do you do that? Because you cannot actually interview the examiner. They are all behind the screen. So what you can do is you can learn their methods, their tools. And the best way is going through previous year questions. As you go through previous year questions, you will understand, I have given the wrong answer. Why did I give the wrong answer? As such, we should always analyze what is the answer. Why other options are not the answers when they are going to become answers, because questions are not repeated. It is the topic which is repeated with the manipulated choices and the stem of the question. And that is also going to give you a trend analysis. Say, for example, in anatomy, recently they have started asking you cadaveric images, which never used to be there. They have started asking you origin and insertion muscle, which was never there at all. Histology specimen, H&E stain, asking for islet of Langerhans. These are very detailed topics, and which is obviously you cannot understand, cannot answer them until otherwise you have practiced those previous year questions. And of course, then you can predict also, like if they have asked you, as I can say, they have asked inner ear histology, the retina histology, then they are going to ask you about taste bud histology, because they are all special receptors. So like that, you can predict also, like what could be the next coming question. And of course, when you do a lot of MCQs, you build your confidence also. Swati ma'am, you can add.
Yeah, what sir was speaking was absolutely right. We can go one step further. When we are solving previous year question, we are getting the topic. So once they have asked from diagnosis, they may go for treatment from the same topic. So the topic has to be prepared properly. And one very important thing is that the examiners who are setting the question, they want you to compete. Problem is there are too many candidates for the same seat. The questions are not very tough. That you have to keep in mind. The questions which are asked are not at all tough. There are simple topics which you just have to have a complete command on. So if, like for example, in anesthesia, if a question is coming from malignant hypothermia, it is coming from malignant hypothermia. Like what I saw, that every alternate year there is definitely a question on malignant hypothermia, very predictable question. Question is coming from embolism. It is the same topic, just with different options and a different clinical scenario being repeated. What I see, the answer remains same. The same embolism is the answer. So the topics are fixed. Previous year question holds a very important part. Then few students are in the chat box asking about the grand test score. Like they are having a less grand test score and they should improve it. But I think that you should never be disheartened by the grand test score. Grand test scores are there to make you sit for that many hours with a full concentration so that your final exam which you are appearing you should make minimum mistakes. The grand tests are there to make you realize that what are the things you are weak in. It is not there to dishearten you. So never be disheartened by the score of grand test. It is just to help you. And don't miss a grand test just because you are not scoring well enough in the grand test, or maybe your friend is scoring better in the grand test. You're thinking your preparation. No, grand test is not your final evaluation. That is preparation for final evaluation. So go for grand test. That is a practicing tool. It will build confidence and it will ultimately boost up your performance. Okay, Pritesh sir, you want to add something?
Yes, see, appearing for exam, I think it's my personal opinion. I was writing the books for AIMS exam also. At present, I write book for INI-CET exam, also NEET-PG also. So what I have observed personally, because see, I belong to one particular field only. But whenever I solve the questions or I write the explanations, let me tell you, the exam is very predictable. And it's very predictable, I'm telling you, because 70 to 80% questions are predictable. Means you know that from these topics only you are getting the questions. Like in
And that,
surgery, it's
and,
breast cancer.
and
Like
that is, sir, enough for getting a good rank, actually.
good rank, obviously. So it's like breast cancer, breast abscess. In thyroid is Hashimoto's thyroiditis, Graves' disease. In adrenal, parathyroid, MEN2A, 2B, pheochromocytoma, liver abscess. And one question which is asked almost every year, that's tension pneumothorax, trauma, EDH, SDH, and integrated questions, intussusception, claw sign. So if you see, all these are predictable questions. Even in skin, you have seen that pemphigus vulgaris, pemphigoid, all those skin lesions. So let me tell you, exam is just like an animal. And if you want to hunt the animal, you have to observe the behavior of the animal. And if you're going to observe the behavior of animal for a long duration, you will find that it's a predictable behavior. So if you're solving the previous year questions, if you see the questions, it's very much predictable, right? Every year, hardly I have to make explanation 20 to 30%. That is the new explanation. Otherwise, 70 to 80% topics are already asked in one or another exam. And what I have observed, that some topics of INI-CET as such repeated in NEET-PG and vice versa. Even FMG, we have seen that the questions which are being asked in NEET-PG, that is being repeated in FMG. So that's the importance. I mean, everybody was telling that the importance of previous year questions and the important topics. Dr. Swati told us that suppose this year diagnosis is asked, next year obviously management, and after that it might be the pathophysiology or etiopathogenesis. So it's like that.
Yeah, one step forward or one step backward.
Yes, ma'am.
And
Yes.
that much only. And even I'm saying, if it's a very big topic and not possible to cover, fine, just go for the question one step backward and one step forward. And maybe 80% chance that you will get the question, because as everyone will agree, everyone wants, even the people who are setting the paper wants you to compete. It is just there are more takers for the same number of seats. That's
Actually,
the reason for competition. Otherwise, they ask the things which they expect you to know. If some emergency management is asked, if some stroke patient has come, how to manage the patient in emergency, the airway management of that patient, well, that is expected out of from intern who will appear for the exam. Well, how to put a Riles tube? It's an expected question. The questions are very predictable, very expected. What you have to know those the question type of questions which are being asked. Be confident in your preparation and give your best shot actually. And be fearless. Being fearless is the most important thing. Where the mind is without fear, your performance would be best. Don't burden your mind with that you have to get a good rank. You will get a good rank if you are fearless. Yeah, Marva sir, you want to add something?
Uh, yeah, ma'am. I think you have said almost everything beautifully. Pritesh sir has given a beautiful analogy of observing a animal. I hope that National Board does not uh, take any offense to that. But yeah, that's perfect, right? You have to be a hunter and you need to be aggressive. And there were a couple of comments with respect to how to approach a GT. My personal opinion is whatever questions that go wrong, there can only be two reasons for it. Either reason number one would be lack of knowledge. You can't do anything about it because lack of knowledge is not something which is sinful. All doctors, even at our stage, would be having some syndrome, some rare thing which we would be missing out. So you have to add that in the register. But it is silly mistakes that would matter. So if I give a grand test out of 200 MCQs, for example, or if you're sitting for FMG exam, 150 questions test you gave, and suppose I got only 50% today because it was my off day. I had not slept properly last night, and maybe I had a 4 or 5 hour sleep, and then I gave a GT and I ended up with 50% score. So in the remaining 50%, there can only be two possibilities. I mean, I would say like 20% questions, at least 10% questions are really going to be bouncers. But then suppose we have reduced that 20 questions again. So I'll go by mathematical value, right? 200 MCQs. I got 100 only correct. 20 are something which are bouncers for me. I cannot do anything for them. and the 80 that went wrong, that is what is gonna hurt my ego, and I'm gonna think that I don't know anything. 80 went wrong. How could this be possible? Then I'm saying out of 80, you just need to in a register note down those 80 points, and add when you noting those 80 bits, right? You need to check out what really went wrong. Was it like a silly mistake, lack of interpretation, or lack of analysis, or was it silly, or I would call it lack of knowledge? So for lack of knowledge, well, nothing can be done. You just can add information to that. But for silly mistakes, I mean, that is what pulls down the scores. And I've been talking to a lot of young adrenaline, dopamine-driven doctors like you guys for such a long period, and all I've seen is it's silly mistakes that drive the scores down. So I think if you can just make a record of whatever went wrong today and then subsequently analyze, that would help you prevent those mistakes subsequently. I mean, I'll not try to make a silly mistake in a tension pneumothorax or in a standard routine question or a routine topic which has been asked earlier. So I think as far as GT is concerned, let's not make it rocket science, and we keep it simple. And things are definitely going to be on the track in favor of yours. So I mean, I understand in this journey, depression is, or I'd not call it depression. I will say off day is definitely on, but then I am gonna try and fix it. That's all about attitude, as they say. Back to you,
Marwa sir.
Swati ma'am.
Yeah, Marwa sir, a lot of people are asking in the chat box about is rapid revision enough? Well, before you give your take, like I was say that if it is 4 months left only, we have just like a few days, the countdown has started. I think rapid revision is the only option actually
I'm
at
not
present.
hours per day, no? Like for those
Exactly.
who saying enough, the point is how many hours
Enough,
can you
enough in
study
the point.
every day? So
Exactly. Enough in the point, sir, that they have not gone through the regular lectures. Uh, would the preparation would be enough with rapid revision? Well, at present, is there any other option? If you're starting from scratch at present, like preparation you are starting, and it's only 4 months left, is there any other option except that at least we do a rapid revision, which would cover the important topics? Yes, sir. Is there any other
yeah,
option?
absolutely. No, no, there is none. Suman, so Dr. Suman Gupta, all are to be completed as we discussed. It's a war out there, so we cannot be giving you any shortcut in a shortcut. It is just that we're giving you very precise and very specific information about how a patient is to be handled. आप पेशेंट से भी बात करते हो तो पेशेंट स्पेसिफिक बात ही पूछता है ना आपसे कि भाई डॉक्टर साहब इसका इलाज क्या है, ये दवाई लिख दोगे, तो आपको दवाई आनी चाहिए उसकी. So if he's going to ask you straightforward things, it is simply to be answered. Dr. Pika says FMG exam, it's a very simple, straightforward exam. I've seen average people, hardworking people putting 4 months into it and getting clearing it, right? The exam is anyway going to be very soon. So I don't think so that there should be any doubt. It is that go-getter attitude that actually will help you go about doing things. And as far as reading books is concerned, standard textbooks, I mean, we are having, I think, a couple of third, fourth year people also. Yep, it's good to see you guys talking about standard textbooks. But yep, I mean, there is a limit to how much data crunching can you do. I mean, you can put in multiply hours that you have in a month and then all the college things that you also have to do. So it's not I would love to see you reading all the standard books, but then you need to. I mean, I don't want to dampen your enthusiasm, but I just want you to be cautious about how are you investing. I mean, somebody commented, I read biliary atresia from Opigai. So biliary atresia and Opigai is only 5 lines max, right? And if you're gonna read it from Nelson, it's obviously gonna be like maybe 1 page, right? But then he's not going to ask you about biliary atresia. He's going to ask you congenital heart disease. So put 50 pages of those OPGAI and then try reading that from Nelson. It won't be possible, right? Because Nelson would be giving you so many chapters on congenital heart disease that things would totally go off, would be beyond the capacity of the neocortex, as Rajesh sir was trying to explain the concept of memory. Sir, would you like to add something there?
Very correct, Marwa sir. As I was also going through some names given to me in neuroanatomy, should I go through in the Vishram Singh or this embryology? They were telling Sadler. The various books are there. It is always good to go through the standard textbooks, but when there is time, like in first year, if you have read those books, very good. But if you are now in the final year, or if the exam is just about to happen, like today we are talking about 4 months in hand, then obviously we don't have any time. In fact, we don't even have time to read our notes which we have made. So I would not recommend to go through any of these books, even for cross reference. It needs to be done. Or maybe if you ask me, there's only one book which I will say should be read well, thoroughly, and that is your Harrison Medicine, because I have seen 25% of MCQs in anatomy come from Harrison Medicine, which is so strange. But it is the truth, because that is the only book I would recommend. Otherwise, if you say I'll read Bailey Love and then Sebastian and then Schwartz surgery, it doesn't make sense, because you're not going to become a specialist within this 5.5 years of MBBS. So going to standard textbook is important when you are in the curriculum, in the university exam pattern. Otherwise, at this moment, no, not at all. You have to revise your own notes, and rapid revision is, of course, a gem. It is kind of such a beautiful, beautifully architectured system, and which can be managed within this short duration. So I believe all the faculty, they do believe in whatever they have given in the videos, in the notes, and that is definitely going to help. So can we have the next slide, please? Dr. Zainab, you can speak upon some notes making.
So I think notes making is something which is very crucial that you would have to do in order to prevent your reading from becoming passive. A lot of times, what happens when we are reading or watching a video is we are watching it, but we are somewhere else in our mind, right? We zone out. So, what I would recommend is while you are revising, let's just be in the same scenario that I have 4 months or maybe 1 month for my FMG exam. What I would recommend is have a piece of paper along with you, have a A4 sheet paper, and whatever you're reading, keep noting down a few phrases, right? Whatever are the buzzwords which are important. That will prevent, a very, very passive learning from happening, because anytime I have notes, particularly students who are repeating and who have already read their notes a lot of times, one problem is you are reading. End of the day, you would realize I was sitting on my desk reading the entire day, but in the end, you'll have a feeling that I don't know how this day actually went away, right? मुझे समझ नहीं आया कि yield निकला क्या आखिर. That is because you are flipping the pages and you've seen this material so many times that ultimately you are not reading it, you are just scrolling pages. So, in order to prevent that from happening, make sure one, you are having some piece of paper and you are constantly noting down buzzwords, and at the end of every session, again, 2 to 3 hour session is something that I would recommend at this point. Try to stretch your reading to at least 3 hours at a time, because that is the amount of mind focus you want for the exam, right? So try building your mental stamina to 3.5 hours from this point only. So slowly it will be a time consuming exercise. So maybe right now you have an ability to sit undistracted for 1 hour. Slowly keep increasing it to every half an hour, every 30 minutes, and take it to 3.5 hours, because that is the amount of time you want your mind to focus on the exam day. So try making your study sessions 3.5 hours. Obviously, this is something that will happen in the earlier part of the day. It keeps dwindling down as the day progresses, but that should be the aim. And in that, those 3.5 hours, make sure you are writing down points, and at the end of those 3 hours, just have a look at that paper and try doing a passive recap. That all right, these are the things that I've gone through. Does that still make sense, or is it Greek and Latin? So they should not be Greek and Latin because you have only written them. Okay, so basically that should be the point. So that is where notes come in. Again, do not make very, very extensive notes at this point. Do not dwell into writing, because again, I've seen students do that they are writing everything. So because that is going to take up a lot of time, and we are having a race against time at any point in our life, right? So do not make extensive notes. If you are in your MBBS, you have the luxury to do that when you are making a set of notes. After that, I think it's better if you write lesser and write more high yield stuff, and constantly go back and forth from that, such that you prevent passive learning. That is what would be my suggestion. I think
Well,
Pritesh sir wants to come in.
Okay. Lots of students are asking that which notes I have to follow, main notes or rapid revision notes. So let me tell you, If you already had the look of main notes, follow that. And if you didn't study from main notes, then you can go for the rapid revision notes. But as Dr. Marwah sir said, and everybody was telling that the basic and bare minimum is this rapid revision, right? So I'm not saying that you should skip any other part. If you have studied or revised everything from main notes, follow that. And I have seen some students and they were asking that, sir, can I get 1000 rank of these 4 months preparation? So it can be done, but it depends that how many hours you are putting. That's the most important thing. It's not the days, it's the number of hours per day, and I should say effective hours per day. So that's the most important thing. And Zainab already consolidated everything, that how the note should be prepared. It should not be very extensive. Each and every detail should not be mentioned. You can skip the information which you already know. And there is always some kind of overlapping information, like Hashimoto's thyroiditis, Graves' disease. It is asked in medicine, surgery, pathology, even in pharmacology. So if it is being covered in one subject, then you can read it from that particular subject itself, right? So that's why the revision is also consolidated and notes preparation should also be consolidated. So
And
that's
sir,
my viewpoint about importance of notes made.
and sir, the preparation should be more from minimum to maximum.
Actually, ma'am.
If you have done the bare minimum what is required, then expand your horizon. The problem is that when we start, we like overestimate our potentials. Actually, it is always good to little underestimate our potential, right? I mean, have confidence, but don't have overconfidence. Actually, uh, always do what is bare minimum, which is must, which you have to do, and then if you have done that, then you can expand your horizon. The most important thing, as everyone stated till now, that previous year question, the topics are the most important. Once you have done that, then you will expand your horizon. And for, as everyone said, uh, notes making should go on getting contracted. Like while you are preparing, you know what mistakes you do. That mistake, one mistake register should be made actually, and you should write that what you are doing the mistake in that, which would be again your very rapid last minute revision, so that you don't repeat that mistake, right? One last minute preparation, last minute revision notes should also be there. And rather, and about how many hours each day we can study or we should study. Like everyone is a separate individual. Everyone, how much I can give. Like my friend can study 12 hours and I can study, let's say, only 8 hours per day. Doesn't matter. Am I giving my 8 hours, my best 8 hours? Then it's okay. So what is best, what we are giving in a day should be our take at present. And definitely, since it is only 4 months, as many hours as possible, which I can give. Because as everyone said, it's a fight. So last moment, the fight should be very vigorously. You have to win the. So give as many hours which your mind at present is giving. And as Zainab said, after Diwali, of course, we can start.
Can we have the next slide, please?
Yeah, next.
Okay. So how many times should I solve the grand test? This is something which we cannot actually really demarcate. If I had the time, I will go for all the grand tests which are being given to me in a particular system. Like you are definitely going, you must be following some particular system. So you should give all the grand tests. Not, if not possible, at least alternate grand tests should be given. What is the purpose of grand test? Grand test is actually kind of a simulation. It is kind of a replica. And sometimes some students, they have mentioned almost 75% questions came from the grand test. Now, how is it happening? As Dr. Pritesh has very beautifully mentioned, it is an animal. You are the hunter. You have to just observe the behavior. Whoever is preparing these grand tests is actually doing the job. He is a very good hunter. He is observing what it is, a strategic exam. You have to understand. It is just like a chess game. I told you, you must, as Swati ma'am added, you must be 2 steps ahead of the examiner. Though the examiner has the potential of staying 100 steps in front, ahead of you, but that is not the game. Game is just stay 2 steps ahead. So grand test is going to build up the tempo. It is going to give you the confidence, or it may reduce the confidence. Sometimes you are not performing well. So you must know how much of water you are in. It is a competitive exam. It is all about competition and cutthroat competition. So I won't miss any of the single grand test, in fact. And as I'm suggesting, it is kind of a simulation, it is a mock test, it is whatever, it is your gadgetry basically. So for me, if you ask me, I'll not miss a single one. Dr. Pritesh, you can add on this.
Sir, I have seen lots of students who are depressed after giving GTs, and that's why they lost interest in giving GTs. Let me tell you, it's just like marathon. So even if you're running a 100 meters race, that's not going to help you in marathon. That's why your sitting, your exercise is very important. So if I'm doing treadmill, I should, run for 5 kilometers before going for any kind of marathon. It's not like that I'm running only or I'm just going for an evening walk and then I can go for any mini marathon or half marathon. So GT is going to prepare you. It is going to increase your stamina. It is going to help you in sitting for 3 hours and simultaneously using your brain effectively. Because see, it's very important. I have seen lots of students, even myself, when I was preparing, that I was extremely tired, exhausted when first time I gave the GTs. And after, let me tell you, after 1.5 hours, I was completely exhausted. And then I started marking the question on spinal level. Means I read the question and then whatever option seems suitable to me, that okay, it's looking like correct, I used to mark that because I was exhausted. So that's why solving GTs irrespective of score is very, very important, because it will help you to sit for those many hours, 3 hours, 3.5 hours, and it makes you ready for the exam. So you are getting yourself ready for the marathon. So that's why it's very, very important, and you should start giving GTs. For first couple of GTs, means 3 to 4 GTs, score doesn't matter. Don't get disheartened by score. You just have this kind of thought in mind that I'm preparing myself for the bigger event, right? So this is my viewpoint.
And sir, I think in GT, whatever mistakes we are doing while giving the GT, we should note down it separately and maybe revise it before the next GT. And this way, maybe our score will improve, and
Exactly, ma'am.
it would affect like what mistake I'm doing. I will get a layout of the kind of mistakes which I'm doing in the exam. So as everyone is saying, GT is a warm up, and if you are not doing warm up, then the muscle breakdown will happen
Right.
before the marathon. So
And
warm up
second
is
thing, ma'am,
necessary.
we have idea also that in which particular subject my performance is not that good,
Exactly.
right? Because
You know
19
your
subjects are
weak
there.
point.
Yes,
Exactly. You know your weak point where you have to focus more. And
right.
definitely you will increase your focus there, and you will score better. Next slide. So Marvel sir, will you take this? Uh,
Ma'am, we already discussed subject-wise, day-wise plan in detail.
yeah.
Almost everybody is discussed. So next slide, please.
How many hours to devote on a daily basis?
Again, Swati ma'am has already mentioned, it is individual level thinking. And right before the session, I was telling that I may be spending 5 hours per day, then I will increase it to 10 hours, then 14 hours, 18 hours per day. Also, I have that capacity, but that is my capacity. That cannot be possible for each and every individual. And moreover, as everybody has stressed, it is the effective concentration time which is important. Maybe 3 hours per day itself is quite sufficient. But those 3 hours, where are you? Are you totally into the system, or you are, kind of wasting your time unnecessarily, and just counting the hours is not going to help. So, but obviously, you can start with the little minimal level, like as I said, 5 hours per day. Increase it to 9 hours, 10 hours. 10 hours, I think, per day for a duration of 4 months is quite sufficient. Dr. Marwah sir, what would you like to put on
Uh,
this?
This would be nice if we can just do a quick voting. I would say that being a lazy person, I used to do maybe 3-4 hours of study initially, and then when it used to come to the exam time, I used to push into 12 hours per day. I was never very consistent. It was very inconsistent journey. But yeah, I mean, that added to the stress, very honestly, because it's very easy to say be consistent, be managed to 8 hours every day. But then it never really happened. And like, we doctors are always, most of us are tending to study right towards the end. So I think you just need to peak at a particular point of time. So we can have a quick voting. I would vote for at least 10 hours of study every day. And all of us can, I mean, I'm talking about the remaining period because exams are right on the head for everybody. So I would vote for 10 hours, and the remaining esteemed faculty can also put in, and we can take an average of that. And I think that is what, if people are able to manage. And let's also have inputs from Zainab ma'am. I mean, how many hours per day, ma'am, were you managing when you were in that pressure cooker situation, let me say 3 months before exam?
Sir, I think I also work on deadlines a lot. So that is how, I used to increase my efficiency, that if there is no deadline, I mean, still to this date, I work like that if there's a deadline today, I will give it by 12 hours of the day to that work. But if I have, suppose, 3 days to finish something, I will push it to the third day and then put in 12 hours on the third day while having wasted 2 days. The same thing I think happens for preparation also. That when I know that my exam is, 1 year down the line, my efficiency is going to be very low. So that is why it's very important to create these landmark dates, that this is when I need to finish this, right? This is very important, that you create these deadlines. So now if INI-CET is something which is coming up, even if your primary aim is NEET, a lot of students say, ma'am, mera aim to NEET hai, why should I write INI-CET? It's very important that you write INI-CET, because that gives you this deadline that by 13th November, I want to finish off my one round of revision. So I think like sticking to the point and not drifting how many hours. So try to create these deadlines for you and try to push your, efficacy to as much as possible. So suppose if we have 24 hours in a day, I would always start with 8 hours of sleep. First, I would take out 8 hours of sleep. That is very optimal, because if you don't sleep well, if you compromise on those 7 to 8 hours of sleep, your other 16 hours are not going to be productive. So that is one sincere advice: do not compromise on your sleep, right? So 8 hours are gone, we have 16 hours which are left. Out of that, let's just say that 4 to 5 hours I'm spending on other stuff of life which we have to do, like eating and other stuff, other socializing. So let's say 4 to 5 hours are something that all of us would need in a day where we are not studying. So I think maximum would be around 12 hours. I don't think anybody can increase an efficacy more than 12 hours. If you're doing amazing, but 12 hours is something which is maximum. Minimum, I would say, try studying for, at least 6 hours on a day if your exam is around 3 months down the line. So somewhere between 6 to 12 is where we want. So again, do not think it's going to be homogeneous in efficiency. So efficiency keeps falling as we go down the drain. So you have to again triage. I keep using the word triage again and again. So you have to triage your topic. When I wake up, I know I have my maximum efficiency. So first 3 to 4 hours, try to do the most important stuff. Do not, solve MCQs. Then try reading your notes in the first part of the day. Second half of the day, when you feel your efficiency is going down, do MCQs. In the latter half, see some video. So you have to modulate efficiency and try to maximize the hours of the day in, that order. So when your mind is in your full concentration, read your notes. Then when you think you need some passive time, you're very tired, try seeing a video and, do passive learning. So more than the number of hours, it's how you use these hours, to the best of the ability. And you have to understand the limitations of the mind. You just can't think 8 hours and 8 hours homogeneously we are studying. That can never happen, right? So it's very important to modulate, I think, the day. And as the day progresses, we adjust the schedule that way. I think that is what I can recommend.
And it is also important, like when we are increasing the duration for which we are studying, we should not peak before the exam. Sometimes it happens like exam is 1 week ahead and I have pushed myself to the limits. And then suddenly what I find is I am totally drained of energy. And the next 3-4 days, I'm doing nothing. I'm just sitting there. I'm just going through my stuff, but nothing enters in my mind. So you should not push too much yourself and kind of reach a peak before the exam and waste your 2, 3, 4 days, which are very important, very crucial before the exam. So maybe, as Dr. Zainab has mentioned, it could be a range, 6 hours to 12 hours, and try to reach your 12 hours just before the exam days. Means you can just stay somewhere 8 to 10 hours per day, and 12 hours per day should be within the last week of the actual exam.
Actually, sir, I had the opposite kind of strategy when I was preparing. Like what I thought, give your best shot, and your best would be different from other people. Give your best, whatever time you have left, utilize maximum for studying. Definitely, the thing which Zainab suggested was very good. Triage, like when your mind is clear, study notes and then solve MCQ when it is getting little boring. So triage is very important, and give as much as possible without thinking about 10, 12, 14, 8, 6, 4, the countable things. No, it's not required to count how many. What is your best? What you have to give. Give your best. And what I used to do, I mean, I can share my experience that just before the exam, the latter days, 2 days, 3 days before the exam, I used to relax a bit. I used to keep my brain more relaxed. Like last few days before exam, if I start studying, I'm speaking about myself and people like me, that I would become more like uh, scared 12 hours before, one day before exam. Last few days, little relaxed. Just few days, I'm saying. And before that, as many hours as possible. The best of yours, without counting
Absolutely.
the hours.
So I think it's a range that almost everybody has commented, and you guys can obviously decide whatever that fits you best. So I think we can move on to the subsequent slide. And there was a query regarding what to start. So my the way I approached was, it's like a monkey, get the monkey off my back. So it's like, I start with anatomy, biochemistry, physiology, first prof subjects, which I think at least they were very, very weak as far as I am concerned. So it was like getting a monkey off my back and getting over with them. So I think that whole circle of 19, getting a bird's eye view, is what I can summarize here. And well, towards the end of today's discussion, yep, about the important things are, which might sound a little, uh, I would say, you might say that, okay, sir, we know this, but yeah, these are important. I mean, it's our job to emphasize you to take care of your health, maintain your diet part, avoid, if you're staying in some areas in Delhi like Gautam Nagar, etc., for FMG exam, for example, avoid those fried food, and avoid binging on street food. Basically, that would make you feel more lethargic, more tired. So yep. And try to keep regular breaks, but again, the sitting durations have to be very consistent, as everybody has emphasized. I mean, most people, when they sit studying, first hour, everybody's gonna be like, yo man, I'm gonna do it. And then after 2 hours, the fatigue sets in. Then you start checking out your phone, and a 2.5 hour period, you say, okay, I'm gonna take a short break, and then that break extends into 2 hours subsequently, and you say, oh man, I wasted half my day. So, I mean, that's important. Improve your circadian rhythms. A lot of you would be studying the whole night, sleeping the whole day. That doesn't really work. When it comes to the exam time, what I've seen is people tend to feel drowsy at the exam time. So, you need to reset your biological clock gradually. It's not possible over one day, but then you need to get into that frame of mind. I mean, you just can't say that, okay, one fine day I'll wake up and, I'll go and sit for an exam, and you might be feeling sleepy at that point of time. So, yes, focus and stay calm. Those are the inputs from our side to you. And I would say happy Diwali to everybody. Happy Diwali to all my esteemed panel members as well. And it's been great interacting with you guys. So we'll just give one more minute for quick queries from your side, and any one of us can answer those queries. There would be no burnout, sir. In our medical field, we don't have a burnout. We are all on that. In our, like in a movie, there's a jet plane, and the jet plane has that afterburner. So you guys are all that, having that afterburner present. That all doctors have a story behind them. All doctors have afterburners, and they're able to do data crunching in the last hours before exam. Ordinary people can't do that. Ordinary people can't be doctors. So we're just waiting for quick queries from your side, and then we can call it quits for today. Try
Somebody
to
is
invest
asking
as
that
much time.
how much time for surgery. So let me tell you, it's up to you. Ideally, if the person is watching the video for the first time, usually it takes 21 days. But if already you have watched the videos, hardly it will take 15, maximum 14, 15 days. And if you are revising, hardly 7 days are enough. And in rapid revision, the duration is approximately 25 to 26 hours. So I think 4-5 days more than enough for revision. First time, it will take time and generally approximately 21 days if you're a first timer. Somebody is asking how to revise short subjects. So I think Swati ma'am will be telling you better that what
So
should be
for
the approach.
short subject, I think at present, like when you have just 4 months, go for rapid revision. I mean, the rapid revision for the short subject has been prepared in such a way that all important topics are covered in that. So in a lesser time, it will give you a bird eye view. Plus, it will also help you in solving. I mean, covering most of the part of the short subject, and it will leave your spare your lot of time for other big subjects which you have to cover. So I think rapid revision is a very good strategy. And one more thing which I saw in the chat box, students were asking about the sequence, what sequence the subject they should study. Well, the best sequence is what the sequence has already been decided by the MBBS. That is starting from first prof to the final prof. That should be the sequence. But if it is not possible, as someone said, do the difficult most subject which you find most difficult first, and then go for the subjects which you have already done or which you find easy and which is your stronger points. So do your difficult things first, and then the other things will come in the line. Anyone can sum up and can just
I think Dr.
Then
Marwah sir has already summed up.
yeah.
So happy Diwali from all of us in advance. And that this was a very nice session as such. All the esteemed faculties have given valuable inputs. I think they were hiding them. Maybe they never thought that it will be resurfacing again. As for Swati ma'am, I can feel it. But the thing is, this is the gist of the talk, that everybody is an individual and we may have different capabilities, different strategies, but eventually just stick to what works good for you.
Happy Diwali.
Happy Diwali, everyone.
God bless
And
you
lots
guys.
of
Take
love
care.
and best of luck. Best of luck.